Yes, that was MASH's beloved Corporal Klinger, played by Toledo native Jamie Farr. Like the actor that played him, Klinger's character was a proud Toledoan. The role and the TV show gave the city a sliver of the national spotlight during the 70s and 80s, an era when Toledo's reputation had already begun to slip. In this scene, Lieutenant Colonel Sherman Potter is going to ask him to make a sacrifice for the good of the entire troop.
You whistle, sir? With both lips. Step over here, I want to talk to you.
Klinger famously kept an audacious wardrobe, and Potter wants him to trade it all away to some local women so that the Army can convert their home into a hospital.
Klinger, I'm the first to say you're a fine medic and a snappy dresser. I try, sir. They'll give us the building for the clothes.
What? I got 300 clams invested in those dresses.
We've got to have an OR.
But my blue chiffon is from Murdoch's of Toledo.
In the end, Potter knows exactly what to say to get Klinger to give up his clothes.
Cowboy, do it for your country.
My country?
Do it for Toledo.
Toledo. Okay, Colonel.
We've spent most of this season exploring some of the things that have led people away from Toledo. The lack of a vibrant social scene downtown, the pitfalls of a post-industrial economy, and the appeal of more established cultural scenes in other cities have all caused young adults to pack their bags. But this week, we're going to spend time with some of Toledo's Klingers. Their perspective is still shaped by the exodus unfolding around them, but that awareness only strengthens their resolve. It makes them want to dig deeper, to keep insisting on Toledo's promise, and to encourage their friends and neighbors to work harder on behalf of this city. How long can Toledo keep counting on its biggest advocates to swim upstream? Welcome to Brain Drain, a mid-story production that presents an average American city through the eyes of the people who've left it behind. I'm Yannick Schaller. Episode 6. I am going to live through this, even if it kills me. Sylvania native Riley Runnels thought she was never coming back home after college.
I was always the kid that said, I'm getting out of Toledo as fast as possible. I'm never coming back. The second I leave for college, I'm gone.
But after graduation, she did come back. And 3 years later, she's still here. She hasn't just stayed in Toledo. She's working to create reasons for other people to stay. She's almost a year into working as the program manager for Epic Toledo, an organization that supports young professionals with networking and development events. Riley credits Toledo for much of Epic's success.
EPIC stands for engaging people, inspiring change. But we really are trying to also showcase that Toledo in and of itself is a really epic place to be. Like, it's so dynamic. It's ever changing. It's always exciting.
Dynamic, ever changing, exciting. All buzzwords that Toledo wants to be associated with. That's how Riley describes her hometown. But it's possible it takes a very particular set of eyes to see it that way. For people who aren't from around here, it isn't exactly love at first sight. Meet Desiree, another one of Midstory's summer interns, who had exactly 2 months to get to know Toledo.
My name is Desiree Law. I am a sophomore at Northwestern University studying journalism. I'm originally from the Bay Area, and my first impression of Toledo was that it's a pretty big city, but with a small town feel.
People usually use that as like a positive characteristic for Toledo. Did that feel like a positive attribute for you? That impression, did it seem like a nice thing to be a big town that felt like a small town?
I think there were positives and negatives to it. The biggest positive that everyone I met would tell me was that everyone in Toledo knows everyone, pretty much. And you can really feel that energy when you're interacting with people in the city, just the way that they approach you with the intention of getting to know you more, the intention of helping you want to learn more about Toledo, I think is not something that you would find in every city.
I think Desiree is hitting on something really important here. Intimacy, familiarity, and warmth are certainly green flags for any relationship. In this case, there's something for a city to build on.
What we find is that if you create a network in a community, it's harder for you to leave.
Meet Jeff Schaff. He's the Vice President of Talent, Strategy, and Signature Events for the Toledo Chamber of Commerce. Jeff's position allows him to see brain drain in a very specific light.
It's like basic business, right? It's easier to keep a customer than find a new one. And so we need to make sure that we're educating those customers on what the region has to offer.
Like Riley, Jeff grew up in Sylvania. He then attended the University of Toledo and has spent his entire career working in and around the city. He also helped get Epic Toledo started back in 2007.
We never fault anyone for looking outside of our community and maybe developing their skills somewhere else and thinking of potentially coming back. But what we've kind of found over the years is that there is a group that just doesn't understand what we have to offer here in Northwest Ohio and the Toledo region. And so a big element of what we're trying to do is communicate that and tell our story so that it doesn't always seem like the grass is greener somewhere else.
That message has resonated with young professionals like Riley, who have chosen to stay in Toledo instead of searching for greener grass elsewhere. To Jeff, it takes a certain caliber of person to make that commitment.
I think if you're looking for that next generation of leaders, they're here and they're ready to do what needs to be done. The whole reason that I joined Epic Toledo as a young professional in my mid to late 20s was because I wanted to show that the brains were still staying here in the community. When you talk about brain drain and you talk about a pocket of individuals who are leaving, it kind of makes the people who decided to stay here and put down roots in the community feel a little bad. Like maybe only the dumb people are staying here. And we wanted to showcase that that was not the truth, that there is a lot of great talent here.
Toledo native Ellen Zubek participated in Epic before her senior year of college at DePaul University. She was a video and photography intern for the Toledo Regional Chamber of Commerce.
As the intern, I was going to all of those events. You know, I was like I think I was not even 21 yet. And I was going to like all of these like young professional networking events. So I kind of like just got to see what that was like. And I was like, kind of like, oh, like you can actually like live here as a young adult.
Ellen knew she didn't want to chase Hollywood like her peers, and she enjoyed the program enough to move back to Toledo after her lease in Chicago expired. At the time, Toledo seemed like the perfect place to kickstart a freelancing career.
Toledo is still a big city, but it's a small enough artistic community that I was able to like make an impact pretty early on in my career, which is like hard to do in bigger cities. And it was just because I was like excited to do it because I already had a lot of connections there because I grew up there. But I also had like an interest in it, like in a way that I think that not a lot of people do because I had that window cracked, you know, like I was like, I had like this love for a lot of the like the grittiness of it. I felt a little less judged and I felt a little less like terrified because I had a good community who like lifted me up.
That kind of organic community also drew Riley to the city. For her, it's easy to establish roots in Toledo because there's enough room to do so. That's not necessarily true for larger cities.
You are kind of the small fish in the big pond there. Whereas when you're here in Toledo, we're a mid-sized city, so it's not like we're as big as places like New York or LA. But we have a really great city atmosphere while also having that charming neighborhood feel of you might see people you know when you're out and you might not. But at the end of the day, for all of the people who are dreamers and who want to, leave their mark on a place, I think Toledo is the best place that you can do that because there's opportunity here for you to build your own thing, for you to contribute positively to a community.
Ellen found those opportunities. She spent 7 years filming weddings and working for the Toledo Park District. During that time, she also freelanced for local companies. She even made music videos for local band Oliver Hazard.
Sink it into the ocean. Forget I ever was once your love.
Ellen was pursuing her creative passion while living comfortably, which isn't possible everywhere. But sometimes comfort isn't enough.
I kind of feel like I just personally outgrew what I had come to do, if that makes sense. Like, it wasn't like I outgrew Toledo, because I think I can see myself living in Toledo again. So, like, it's not like I have given up on Toledo. But just for, like, the time and place of my life, I had outgrown it. Like, what I needed something different.
And so, like many other Toledo natives, she moved away last year.
I think I could have been happy in Toledo with a full-time job. I think the reasons I chose to move don't relate to that. I think that one thing that I think that Toledo struggles in is just like moving forward in a fast-paced way.
It's not that people aren't trying. Young people like Riley are trying. Early career professionals like Ellen are trying. Programs like EPIC are trying. But from an economic development perspective, maybe Toledo's current efforts to retain young people just aren't cutting it.
If you don't see a plan from the leadership in this area within the next 6 months that's defensible, you could probably start packing your bags. Don't buy any plane tickets, but you could probably start thinking about packing your bags. And it would be a safe bet to say, hey, maybe somewhere else has a vision for me. I think that's a very, very logical timeline.
Darren Moore is the CEO of a global logistics company and is a councilman for the Toledo suburb of Ottawa Hills. He moved to Toledo nearly a decade ago to be closer to family. His wife has ties to a local company, and it just made sense. Their move, he wrote in a recent op-ed in the Toledo Blade, was a deliberate bet on Toledo's future. But he also said that bet has become increasingly difficult to justify.
And I looked back and I said, holy crap, this place is actually possibly worse off than when I got here in 2018. And as parents and as just people, human beings, there is a cost that you take to choose a specific location or not. And I started to think to myself, like, hey, I've seen nearly a decade now. We're not going to where we need to be. All this capital, all this money that came in, we're not sure where it landed. And I'm watching other places that I work develop even faster. You know, in Africa, in Latin America, in Europe, these places are developing, and Toledo's in the same spot.
The more Darren's gotten involved in Toledo's economic landscape, the more he's found cause for concern.
We're coming off a decade of massive spending in our city, and nobody knows where it went. I mean, you can see the projects, but what I mean, nobody knows where it went from a jobs creation, from an increase in household income. Nobody knows where it went from a population growth standpoint. It went into bricks and mortar, but what did that do? There's been so much cash that's gone into it. But if you walk down there, there's no flywheel. There's no momentum. There's no organic activity. And we're celebrating things like gas stations opening and new restaurants, which, again, these are great amenities, but they are not core economic drivers that are anyway going to get us back close to where we were in the 1970s, which we could be really fast if we started to pivot, but we're continuing to use the same strategy moving forward. Yeah, I mean, think of it this way. We're from the automotive background. So we have we have great new wheels on the car, right? We've got a new paint job called the Metro Parks. We've got great, brand new sound system in there. Call that the arts. But our engine is like a 40-year-old engine. And we keep saying to ourselves, well, but look how nice the car looks. Look how, hey, we've opened some stuff along the water. Like, that's not where we need to be focusing. We need to be focusing on the economic engine of Toledo, which is wildly aged out.
Darren's right. Toledo's engine is sputtering. So let's pop the hood. Toledo lags behind the rest of Ohio and the country in a range of economic metrics. Unemployment for the metropolitan area has been between 5% and 6% since the pandemic, consistently higher than the national rate. Nearly 1 in 4 Toledoans live below the poverty line, more than double the statewide rate, and household income is more than 30% lower than the Ohio median. When it comes to educational attainment, more than a third of the U.S. holds a bachelor's degree, but only 1 in 5 Toledoans do. These numbers haven't improved, even after a decade of heavy investment in what Darren called brick-and-mortar upgrades. Today, there are 7,000 fewer workers employed in the Toledo metropolitan area than there were in 2015. In a recent ranking of the 100 largest metropolitan areas in the country by the growth of their millennial populations, Toledo came in 97th.
We have to stop thinking that what we've been doing is going to lead to transformational change. It won't. It's what you've been doing.
Darren says that it's time for a change in strategy. First, he's calling on the city's political leaders to focus on boosting median household income and lowering the poverty rate.
I think we start there. Let's just attack those two problems, and I think everything else will probably fall in line behind it.
But Darren's vision goes further. Like Adam Levine, the director of the Toledo Museum of Art who we heard from back in episode 4, Darren believes that Toledo needs to develop more of an appetite for risk capital. That is, newer businesses that have received multiple rounds of funding and are poised for rapid growth.
Look at the companies that are getting their B rounds, getting their C rounds, and go talk to them and say, hey, we know you're about to go on a growth rip. Why don't you do that growth rip in our region? If I was City Hall, if I was in charge of that, I would say, how do we capture growth stage companies that are well-funded, well-heeled, and they're looking to expand at a low cost? How do we bring them to us? That'll also solve your young person problem, because young people don't go to mature industries. They love to go to the young industries that are young and exciting. They have to see a plan. And that plan, by the way, this is super important. That plan cannot just be attractive to us here, right? Inside our little bubble. No, that plan has to be exciting on a national scale, on an international scale, right? How do people say, holy smokes, I got to get into Toledo fast?
We've learned a lot about Toledo and Toledoans while producing this podcast, but one thing that has stood out is how fiercely loyal most Toledoans are, even the ones who've chosen to leave. But maybe that loyalty has also created a sort of blind spot.
I think the loyalty on the negative side of it has been used to condition Toledoans to celebrate things that, quite frankly, are not successes. They're non-factors. It's non-news. And Amazon distribution centers like everywhere. That's not a win. Data centers, same thing. These aren't wins. These are just normal things the rest of the country is going through. It's if Toledo happens to pop, right? If it happens to get off the launch pad, which it's positioned to, you stand to make a lot of gain financially, socially, socioeconomically. And so the Toledo loyalty can actually pay off in dividends if something happens. Now, if something doesn't happen and we continue to basically maintain status quo, the question will be like, should I have pulled out and gone to another location? It's hard to say what the time is, but it's also interesting to see that second and third tier size cities like ours have gotten off the launch pad, like Grand Rapids.
It might be a bruise to Toledo's ego to be ranked below Grand Rapids, Michigan, but there's some truth there. At least there was for Ellen, who felt that she had grown out of what Toledo had to offer. She moved, you guessed it, to Grand Rapids.
I don't know how to word this, but something that I really liked about Grand Rapids is that it feels like Toledo, but there's just more to, it's more tight-knit. The community feels literally physically like all the neighborhoods are closer together, and the downtown, you can walk more easily in Grand Rapids. You can bike. The public transportation is a little bit better. There are just things that I think in Toledo that we're just a little bit behind, or things we used to have that kind of have broken down a little bit. And there are communities that are struggling in Toledo, and it's really spread out. And so as somebody who is nearing 30, I was I'm still young, and I think I need more vibrancy in my life. And it hurts me to say that because I love Toledo, and I don't think Toledo is not vibrant. I think Toledo is vibrant. But I think that I just was seeking a little bit more.
Ellen is now the photographer and videographer for the Kendall College of Art and Design at Ferris State University. She hasn't written off coming back to Toledo in the future. She has lots of love for her hometown's warm and supportive community. But still, she left. And she finds that unsettling.
This is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart because I, when I lived in Toledo, was such a champion for Toledo. So I almost feel like a fraud that I moved, you know, like I feel like a fraud for like leaving and not like fulfilling that like Toledo hero. But I still love Toledo and I still have like hope for all good things in Toledo and come back all the time.
Love for Toledo may not always be enough to keep people in town, but Riley says this city has more to offer than people think.
If the reason that you're leaving Toledo is because you don't think there's enough opportunity here for you, then you are not looking. And I can firmly say that. I mean, any industry you could think of, we have opportunity here for that. And it is my biggest pet peeve when people tell me that there is no opportunity in Toledo, because there is a wealth of opportunity, both professionally, personally.
Not everyone might agree with Riley, or they might not be willing to put in that extra bit of effort, that second, third, even fourth look to uncover Toledo's potential. Why invest extra when other cities have ready-made opportunities laid on the table? When there are other places that are more ready to receive you as you are.
Corporal Klinger, that's the finest act of bravery I've ever witnessed.
Klinger never makes it back to Toledo. In the series finale of MASH, he falls in love and decides to stay in Korea after the war. The ending of Ellen's story hasn't been written yet. Like Klinger, she's kept Toledo in her heart even after leaving the city behind. Ellen hopes that one day she'll have a good enough reason to return. It's tempting to ask people like Ellen to do it for Toledo. That line might work for some, for a while, but it won't work for everyone. And it won't work forever. Brain Drain is a mid-story podcast written and hosted by Dea Kukeli and by me, Yannick Schaller. Additional reporting on this episode by Desiree Lua and Anavi Prakash. Our editors are Logan Sander and Samuel Chang. Sound design and engineering on this episode is by Samuel Chang. Original artwork for the series by Ruth Chang and Joshua Repp. Data analysis by Tsaisa Tsui, Anna Diasio, and Yitung Jiang. Fact-checking by Terry Brisky. Special thanks go to our lovely team of interns who called Toledo home for, at least, a summer. Anavi Prakash, Yasu Shinazaki, Rajan Carson, Martin Barreto, and Desiree Lua. For more information, research, and reading material, please check out the show notes for this episode, available at midstory.org/braindrain. If our reporting has struck a chord or a nerve, we want to hear from you. Reach us on social media or via email at braindrain@midstory.org. Thanks for listening.